Do you struggle with having bad habits and every time it feels like, oh, I got a little boost of inspiration and some encouragement, I'm going to break free of this habit, but then something happens where you just kind of fall back to your old ways. And now you're at a point where you're like, man, what gives? Why do I keep on continuing to fall? Why do I continue to keep on struggling with this? And I can't just break free of these bad habits. It's almost like you're on this ball and chain, you're on this leash, and it almost seems like it's impossible to just break free of. Well, luckily for you, in today's episode, I'm going to give you guys 3 tips on how to finally break free of bad habits. And the reason why we're talking about breaking free of bad habits is because inside of our coaching program at Heartletics, we love talking about habits. We have habits that, are used for guys that want to lose body fat and build more muscle. Simple things, right? Like eating more protein, hitting your macronutrient goals, getting more adequate steps in and sleep, right? But then we also have habits when it comes to somebody's mindset. That way they're more focused on their goals. They're in alignment with where they're trying to get to in life and who they're trying to become and achieve, right? That best version of themselves, But we oftentimes have these bad habits that's kind of holding us, right, as like a prisoner. The ball and chain, like I say, that leash, that's holding us as this victim mentality to the past. And we have to learn how to break free of that. And that's what I want to go over with you guys. Now listen, you need to take this very seriously because at the end of the day, I always say it like this. Your mind, it's a constant war zone. You have the good wolf, you have the bad wolf. And at the end of the day, the one that you feed the most, that's who's going to win. So when it comes to your bad wolf, right, that's feeding you these bad habits, they don't want you to become successful. They don't want you to go after your goals, your dreams, your desires. They don't want you to become the best version of yourself, right? Your bad wolf, your bad habits, they want to hold you, once again, that chain, that ball and leash, right, to the past. And they want you to stay within your comfort zone. So you need to treat it, right, as kind of a serious note here, right? You need to be kind of pissed off even, like if you're somebody that constantly falls back to that victim mentality of, feeding the bad wolf and going into your old bad habits. You got to get pissed off. You got to get aggressive with it, right? Because it's a fight and it's a battle, right? It's a battlefield between, the good wolf versus the bad wolf. And you got to take this very seriously. Reason why I'm telling you that is because in today's society, most men are failing that battle over and over and over again. And they keep on just retreating and going back to their bad habits. I was actually looking up before recording today's episode, the top 5 bad habits that most men struggle with, is number 1, spending way too much time on their phone. They're a consumer, right? They're not a producer. So what does that mean? They're consuming all this information. Maybe it's, Facebook, YouTube, Google, TikTok, and it's just like they're wasting away hours just consuming all this mindless information that gets them absolutely nowhere. Now, if you're somebody that's on your phone, but you're a producer, right? You're producing content, right? You're trying to add more value out there into the marketplace and help people out. That's a little bit different, But most of the time, guys are just sitting there on their phone when there could be a million better other things to be doing, like push-ups and sit-ups, right? Like going for a walk outside, spending quality time either with your family or quality work, right? Instead of just, once again, just going through the motions, and it's just like you're not focused. You're too much consuming all this information. The second bad habit is poor hygiene. And sure, you might shower, once a day and brush your teeth once a day, but at the end of the day, maybe you're really not taking care of yourself to the best abilities that you could. The second bad habit is bad eating habits, and guys struggle with this all the time. And I'm going to talk, dive in a little bit, deeper into this here in a little bit and talk a little bit more about, those bad eating habits and the root of the issue. So it's going to be really, really important to listen to that. But hear me out. I mean, it's not hard to just eat healthy. It's not hard to eat accurately. I think the problem is, once again, guys don't know how to eat for their body type. They think it's just calories in versus calories out. They don't know anything about macronutrients. They don't know anything about micronutrients. They don't know anything about flexibility and applying the 80-20 rule to fit in their favorite foods. So they just keep on going from fad diet to fad diet to fad diet, where they just get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. They never actually have success at reaching their goals, unfortunately. The fourth bad habit is not sleeping enough. And I am somebody that is going to say, hey, that's me, right? I know for a fact I need to be prioritizing my sleep a lot more, especially the older I get. Like neurologists do so many brain studies on recovery and sleep, and I know it's important, but I personally need to make that more of a priority, right, in my own life, because I'm somebody that just grinds away. I work, and it's like, hey, if I'm not taking the adequate time to recover, I'm gonna eventually run dry. So I understand, like, that's a big one. And then the fifth bad habit, which is that, guys are just financially irresponsible. And I gotta say, there's a lot of truth to that. I know a lot of guys that as soon as they get paid, what do? Hey, they're going to buy this, they're going to buy this, they're going to buy this, and then pay off their bills. And then it's like they don't do anything in terms of like investments. They don't know anything about like, IRA accounts, they don't know anything about mutual funds, index funds, right? Just like investing. And I always say it like this, that, it's great to obviously make money, but no matter how much money you make or how little money you make, like you should still be putting some aside. I have several different bank accounts that when money comes into my main accounts, everything just gets split up, right? To, hey, somebody's going to here, somebody's going here, somebody's going over here. And I'm not a financial advisor by any means, but I am somebody that literally failed out of my math class back in high school, and I had to take a summer aid class, if you want to call it that, for extra credit points. And the course that this lady was kind of teaching us was Dave Ramsey's The Total Money Makeover. And hands down, I recommend everybody go read that book. I personally love that book. I personally love Dave Ramsey and his principles because they're biblically based, with him being a believer in faith. But also, it's just, hey, he's somebody that takes it very seriously, where, stop trying to get rich today. It's like, hey, you can get rich in the future. Just start planning for it today. Once again, I'm not a financial advisor, just food for thought in case anybody out there is struggling. You can start small, right, when it comes to investing. But I would recommend, hey, invest $10, go on Amazon, get the Total Money Makeover book by Dave Ramsey. It's a lifesaver. It definitely changed me, Now, let's continue on the trend. We're talking about, obviously, breaking free of some of these bad habits. But hear me out. Before we go into the 3-step process, in my opinion, on how to break free of some of these bad habits, understand this. It's a lot easier to subtract rather than add. So let's just say, for example, somebody is completely stressed out. And since we're just talking about, money, let's talk about, hey, somebody is stressed out maybe at a situation at work or something like that, Maybe they're getting an argument with their spouse, any kind of stress, Instead of just, hey, adding in a bunch of habits, but you're still dealing with this root of the cause, that could just make somebody even more stressed out, because now there's even more things for them to think about. So it's like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do this, I got to do this, but I'm still stressed out about this thing right here that's, causing them some problems and some issues. So sometimes it's, I like to say it like this, less actually is more. So sometimes it's better to subtract. And in this situation, hey, what can we take away from? So instead of adding in, better habits that's going to help you, why don't we remove some of the bad habits that's hurting you? That's, once again, holding you, right, captive, right, as this prisoner, a slave, right, ball and chain and this leash to, the victim mentality, the person that is just a slave to feeding the bad wolf. So it's like, hey, let's break free of that first, and then we can focus on, hey, starting to acquire in better habits. It's going to be a lot easier for you if you do it that way. So how do you do it? Here's a 3-step process. The first step is to identify the habits that you're currently doing today. Is it helping you or is it hurting you? Because one, literally take out a pen and paper, draw a line through the middle, write out your good habits, write out your bad habits. Everybody has their pros, everybody has their cons, but you should also identify to see, okay, out of all the habits that you're doing, what are the ones that's helping you? What are the ones that's hurting you? And then from there, once again, you got to take action, right? It's taking ownership. You have to treat it like a battlefield and kind of be like, enough's enough. I got to make a change. I got to do something about it. And you got to develop more discipline. You have to, right? I always say it like this, motivation gets you started, right? Anybody can do anything when, hey, it's a great day and there's no stress and the weather's great, but discipline keeps you going. Discipline is like, hey, I don't feel like showing up, but I'm going to show up anyways. Discipline is, hey, it's snowing outside, right? And there's a bad storm coming, but I'm still going to go to the gym. I'm still going to get a workout, right? Discipline leads to success, plain and simple. And they say it that, the ability to discipline yourself, to delay gratification in the short term in order to enjoy greater rewards in the long term, that's going to be what you truly want, honestly. Because I know a lot of people that suffer with, oh, this tastes good, right? I want it right now, short-term gratification. But once again, you want that discipline so that you can have that long-term success, right? A way bigger reward at the end of the tunnel as long as you're more disciplined. But in order to get that way, identify what are the good habits, what are the bad habits, right? And really so that way you can physically see, hey, do you have more bad habits than you actually have good habits? Just by doing that one simple exercise, it's going to just help you be more aware of the situation. Now, the second step is to identify your triggers and most importantly, the root of the issue itself. So I mentioned earlier about bad eating habits. And obviously with me, talking about health and fitness, helping guys, on their journey of becoming the best version of themselves mentally and physically, hey, let's talk about eating habits because I know a lot of guys that suffer with that and struggle with that as well. So let's just say you got some bad eating habits. Where, hey, when everything's good, like you're on point, you're hitting your macro goals, you're, eating pretty clean. But next thing you know, it's like, hey, you find yourself kind of falling back to maybe the kids' pantry where it's like you got the Pop-Tarts, you got the Rice Krispie treats, you got the candies, right? The little pastry cakes. And you find yourself kind of just always sneaking away into that pantry and finding those snacks. Well, obviously, hey, you got to realize here, what is the trigger that's causing that? Honestly. And most of the times, it has something to do with the lack of self-control. And why does somebody have lack of self-control? Well, this is where you have to dig a little bit deeper. And this is why asking yourself questions is so vital and important. Because somebody can just say, oh yeah, I lack self-control and that's why I'm eating my kids, Scooby-Doo snacks, right? But it's like, hey, why do you lack self-control? Oh, well, maybe this happened at work and, I'm underneath a lot of stress. Okay. Or maybe this is going on at home and I'm underneath a lot of stress. Okay. So what happens when you're underneath a lot of stress? Now, by you asking yourself these questions, you're getting more in tune with your feelings and your emotions, which is very important. We talk a lot about emotional health and emotional healing inside of our coaching program at Heartletics. It's not just, hey, meal plans and workouts. No, it's the whole 9 yards. And hear me out, right? Maybe you need to be a little bit more emotionally stronger and ask yourself questions. Why am I feeling this way? Why am I going here? Oh, well, I'm going into the kids' pantry because I'm stressed out because this happened at work. And now I'm upset about it. So I need to control the situation, right? I need to find something, right? Because if your emotions, right, I like to say it like this, if something's out of your control, a lot of times, guys, hate to say this, but that's where their feelings, their emotions take a big turn on them. Because guess what? When something's out of their control, they don't like that. They feel so distant from it. And they're trying to pretty much fill that void, if that makes sense. Where it's like, okay, what do I fill that void with? Oh, bad habit. Let me just eat this, right? Comfort food. Let me have all this, ice creams, cakes, sugars, etc. And then you feel guilty about it, right? And regretting it. And it doesn't even help anything at all. It's just literally a band-aid to the gunshot wound. So once again, you got to understand, what is your trigger? Oh, well, hey, if I'm stressed out, right, that's the trigger. It's going to lead to self-control, right? Issues, lacking self-control. Well, what's the root of the issue then? Oh, I'm not in control of this situation, so it's making me feel this way. So what can I do as a replacement that's a good habit rather than a bad habit so I can feel that sense of control again? Hey, okay, I got two different options here. I can go to the kids' pantry, eat the Scooby-Doo snacks, or, hey, you know what? I'm in control over who I am and who I'm trying to become. So I'm going to start doing some push-ups. I'm going to start doing some sit-ups. I'm going to use that, emotions, that energy that you're feeling right now of the lack thereof, of lack of self-control, that, hey, this is happening. It's out of your control, right? And you're going to transfer that to more positive, good habits rather than bad habits. Keep that in mind. That is a big keynote I want you to understand. And lastly, the third step is to find people to hold you accountable. Honestly, accountability is going to save your life hands down. A lot of time guys deal with pride, the big egos. Oh, I can do this all by myself. But why is it that 60% of Americans are overweight and obese and half of them struggle with high blood pressure? How is doing it all by yourself working out for you, right? It's like, take ownership, take action. Realize here that you don't know what to do, but the minute you wave the white flag and say, hey, I need help, and you're going to surrender, you don't have to go to the battlefield anymore and fight those battles all by yourself. Now you can have people in your corner that's encouraging you, that's holding you accountable, making sure that you're staying on track with your goals, and they're helping you, they're supporting you. But it requires you to take action. It requires you to admit that, hey, you need some help. You can't do this all by yourself. I mean, who wants to go out to war all by themselves anyways with a small little pistol? It's like you want to have your teammates with you. You want to have people fighting that bad wolf with you, helping you overcome and claim victory over those bad habits. Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, one man sharpens another. And so when you combine these three, steps into just a simple formula, and once again, just start applying it. That's it. That's it. Just start applying everything that I'm saying. You will have such an amazing shift that happens in your own life. Not just with your mindset, not just with your body, but your emotions, right? And those people that's around you that you love and you care about as well. And it doesn't have to be hard at all. It just requires you to, once again, one, identify what are all your habits. Is, this one, hurting you, or is this one helping you? And see that. Have awareness, right? The pros, the cons. Do you have more bad habits than you have good habits? Go through that exercise. It takes 5-10 minutes. And then the second part is obviously figure out what are the triggers. And then most importantly, what is the root of the issue as to what's leading you falling into those bad habits. And lastly, have some people in your corner to help you and hold you accountable. At the end of the day, if you want to go, by yourself, hey, you will go fast. But if you want to go far, go together. Plain and simple. My pastor shares this all the time, and I love it. A problem shared is a problem cut in half. And so many times that guys, we are constantly carrying these burdens all by ourselves because we have these big egos and we're prideful, and we don't ever want to admit and ask for help. So sometimes, like that right there, asking for help is the key for success for you. So hopefully you guys got a lot of value from today's episode. If you did, give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below as well. Let me know your biggest takeaway. We obviously talked about some good habits in the very beginning, but obviously, once again, diving into how do we cut ourselves free of this ball and chain of the past. That way we don't have to have this victim mentality anymore where we're constantly pointing the finger at somebody or something else as to why our life is like this. But we got to realize, hey, every time we do that, we have 3 fingers pointing right back at us. And so much so, it's probably because these bad habits of feeding the bad wolf is actually what's hurting us and preventing us from reaching our goals and becoming the best versions of ourselves. So once again, hopefully you guys got a lot of value. If you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure to do that. I would greatly appreciate that. And as always, guys, this has been Coach Joe with Heartletics.com, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Peace out, Girl Scouts.